Welcome to the Old Republic Podcast.
We are a podcast that discusses Star Wars, Knights of the Old Republic, general sci-fi, and about the stories that inspired a galaxy.
Consider this a spoiler warning for everything under the sun and the twin suns in that galaxy far, far away.
This is where the fun begins.
Hello everyone, it's been a while since we've done a Hero's Journey episode. Today we're talking about the Force Awakens. How are you today, Brian?
I am doing great. It's exciting to be back on the Hero's Journey train. You know, we did the, kind of the original trilogy, we did the prequel trilogy, and now it's time to dig into the sequel trilogy here. And I have to say, watching The Force Awakens, A, it was a good time to go back and watch it because I hadn't watched it in a little bit of time, but B, this one was a lot trickier than I thought it was going to be from the offset.
Yeah. It does kind of follow some beats from, A New Hope and the original trilogy, but I think it's kind of the first time that you kind of have, more pronounced, deuteragonists. Mm-hmm. I feel like I said that word wrong, but...
sounded right to me.
In The Force Awakens, you have Rey, and you have Finn, of course, and there's more going on than I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly. You have kind of the journeys there. You could also, I guess, make the case you could follow the path of Kylo Ren's journey. He goes on pretty much a full journey in this story as well. But yeah, this one was a lot trickier than I thought it was going to be because kind of the big takeaway from The Force Awakens was it shared a lot of kind of similarities with A New Hope, which was fine, but that very much is a kind of a contained thing, whereas this was meant to be, kind of the launch pad for, further storytelling. So it had some elements of that, but it also kind of in the same way had some elements of the Phantom Menace, where you're setting up this trilogy to get going. So kind of the steps for the hero's journey are definitely all there. At least I could kind of find them, but kind of the path to those was a little different than I was expecting.
Yeah, so did you see any KOTOR similarities?
I did not see any KOTOR similarities, to be honest, because I wasn't really looking for KOTOR similarities. It had been too long since we did this, so I wasn't thinking about KOTOR similarities there when I was sitting down and watching this one. But what about you? Did you come up with anything really good that links back to Bastila and Revan and the rest of the Ebon Hawk crew?
Yeah, so I found a couple. I'm not as sharp as I used to be, probably, but the first one that I even noticed, in some of, when they were making the movie, how sometimes there would be articles, and it's here's the first look at Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren. And I was like, oh, Kylo looks a lot like Revan, and that kind of sounds like,
Mm-hmm.
Revan. So I do think it's kind of something they're at least aware of, even if it's not fully intentional. I think they're playing with it. And similarly, Rey is a British brunette with a double-bladed weapon, and maybe it's just kind of more... Oh, and she has, like I said, British accent, and maybe it's they say, maybe it's just kind of superficial similarities, but I'm the outfit kind of looks similar, the personality. I actually kind of think Rey is a little bit more similar to Revan in as much as he has a personality, I kind of see Ben and Kylo Ren a little bit more similar to Bastila, but it's an interesting dynamic, I guess, that you learn more about in The Last Jedi. And then, of course, because it's Star Wars, what are they looking for? They're looking for a map to the stars that's hidden in a droid.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So, not a Rakatan star map.
Not a Rakatan star map, just a regular old star map that plugs into R2 and BB-8. So yeah, those are some good similarities. I guess you could make the link. You rightfully, I think, said that Rey was more of a Darth Revan type of a figure, and I guess you could kind of find some parallels there too, in that she doesn't really know her own kind of history, not in really an amnesiac kind of way, but just not really sure of who she is, and that's kind of the same thing with Revan. As you're playing through the game there. So yeah, some definite good links to KOTOR there for this, and that makes sense, I guess, now that we're into kind of this newest phase of Star Wars storytelling. The people that are writing these stories and doing the artwork and stuff like that are presumably of the age where they might have grown up playing Knights of the Old Republic, like you and I and a lot of our listeners have. So that makes sense, I think, that they would be drawing on some of those things for some inspiration. So I like that. Let's talk about The Force Awakens a little bit here, Cassia. So it released on December the 16th, 2015, and it currently sits as the top grossing domestic release of all time, $936 million, and fifth all time worldwide. So just over $2 billion there. So quite a big chunk of that sale purchase price there. Disney got back on this one. So Neil Blomkamp and Ben Affleck apparently both were offered the opportunity to direct episode 7 and both turned it down. And it finally went to J.J. Abrams after Steven Spielberg had made the suggestion to Kathleen Kennedy to bring J.J. on. So that's how he got involved. Early drafts of the story had Luke return kind of about halfway through the story, about midway through the story. He was going to turn back up, but the writers felt that it took over the story. And you can certainly see that if you remember back to the was it the first season of The Mandalorian when he turned up, and that was where the story went as soon as he turned up. So I guess that makes sense if you're writing the story and you want to really kind of focus on these new characters to keep him as a MacGuffin, stretched out to the end of the film. Dennis Lawson, who played Wedge Antilles in the original Star Wars trilogy, was offered to come back and reprise his role, but declined to do so. So I don't know if that changed any of the storytelling there. And The Force Awakens was nominated for 5 Academy Awards. It did not win any of the 5, but it was nominated for Best Editing, Sound Mixing, Sound Editing, Visual Effects, and Best Original Score. So nominated for 5, but didn't win any. But you make a $2 billion, I guess you're okay with that. So.
Yeah. So there certainly was a hubbub when this film came out, because I think Disney knew how to market then. We're kind of at the peak of the MCU, and then Star Wars was kind of reborn. People were excited, and I think the prequels had an interesting legacy. Some people really liked them, some people not so much, but I think people were just kind of looking for a return to form. So
yeah, it's very similar in the same sense. You go from 1983 to 1999, and then you go from 2005 to 2015. So there are these big gaps. So you have people that grew up on the original trilogy that were flocking to the theaters to see the prequels, and then you had kids that grew up on the prequel trilogy that were flocking to the theaters then to see the sequel trilogy. And by and large, their takeaways from both sets of those fans were similar in a lot of sense. You could say history has a tendency to repeat itself, especially when it comes to Star Wars here. But yeah, I think it was definitely a good kind of starting point, especially from the standpoint that you want to get a cast of new characters out there, you want to get your new film out there, and it did really, really well, in terms of getting eyeballs on it for sure. So what do you say, Cassia? Let's get into the hero's journey of it all.
Yeah, so if it sounds like we're a bit rusty, it's because we're rebooting, after, a long absence. So I'm just looking up Christopher Vogler.
That's right. Well, while you're looking that up, Cassie, I guess we should probably go ahead and get this out of the way here first. So for my hero's journey, I am going with Rey, is the character here in the story that I felt deserves the hero's journey treatment, because we mentioned at the top there were a couple of options, and a couple of these episodes that we've done, you and I have picked different characters, or maybe not the who you might imagine to be the main character, the main hero of the film, but I went with Rey. Who did you go with?
I think I kind of went primarily like I kind of saw Rey and Finn going on a journey, and there are elements of like, like a journey for Kylo Ren as well.
Hmm. Good deal.
So, we always begin, with the ordinary world, and this is kind of just the hero in their everyday life, and it's kind of like the status quo of the story. What I kind of saw is the ordinary world was the rebels and the Empire have evolved into the Resistance and the First Order, and I said that Jakku is our ordinary world, where the film starts.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure. It definitely is. I think if you're going about this looking at Finn as kind of the hero here, I think you could make the case that Finn first getting to Jakku is almost like the special world for Finn. So we're kind of picking up on his a little bit later into the journey potentially.
Yeah.
I think, but yeah, definitely looking at Rey here as the hero. Yeah, I say scavenging in that old Star Destroyer. Going into town, getting a half portion for your parts, and helping others. Coming across BB-8 and fixing his antenna. That's all kind of part and parcel for Rey here. This is just her living her everyday life. Doing some scavenging and making some trades and making some delicious looking bread that pops up in your bowl. That looks pretty good. But I think that's all kind of the everyday life portion for Rey here in the story.
Yeah, and we kind of see it starts off with the First Order coming to Jakku, coming to get Poe, who is trying to learn where Luke Skywalker is, and we kind of see that Finn's not about the stormtrooper life, but Poe gets captured, and then Finn is like, I'm going to free Poe so I can leave the First Order because I can't do this anymore. And yeah, that's where I kind of see it. Where do you see Rey coming in?
In terms of the ordinary world for Rey?
Yeah, ordinary world.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, obviously, kind of in the background of all of this stuff that's going on Jakku, Rey's already there, right? She's been on Jakku since she was a little kid. We learn kind of in a flashback. So yeah, that's definitely part of her everyday world there, and we meet up with her then later while she's inside of that Star Destroyer, which is pretty epic. But yeah, it definitely lays out to the kind of ordinary world for Kylo Ren. I guess searching for this, he's already well on his way to try to find the location of Luke Skywalker, and that's where we're getting started with at the beginning of the story. But yeah, we don't obviously we don't pick up with Rey here until kind of after that first kind of initial scene there where Poe gets captured and they make their way back up onto the Star Destroyer, and they make their exit to then out and back down to the surface of Jakku.
Yeah, and what I always thought was cool is like Rey made a mask out of like I assume it's like a stormtrooper helmet, so it's like she has like kind of like sunglasses, and I'm like, ooh, there's lots of dust in the air. It's probably the most dust per capita shot in all of Star Wars,
There's a lot of dust. It looks very dusty. Yeah, she has like the kind of the wrap around her head, and then she has those goggles. Yeah, that definitely look like they came out of like a stormtrooper helmet or like a TIE pilot helmet or something like that.
Yeah, they definitely justify her skills in the story, and her speeder looks a lot like a popsicle. Like every time I see it, I'm like, she's on a popsicle. So it's funny.
It does. Yeah, I have the little action figure of that here, and definitely does look like a popsicle. It is pretty cool. It's all loaded down with junk, and it seems good. And yeah, she heads into town there. Trades her stuff that she found on the Star Destroyer, which seems like it would be worth more than like a half of a loaf of bread, but that's all she gets at the end of the day. And goes home, and you see she's kind of there in the shadow of this was it the big AT-AT, AT-AT Walker. They're kind of sitting and having her bread and, daydreaming about adventures and things, kind of similar to Luke Skywalker, but her call to adventure and then reluctance is going to be a little bit different, I think. So, yeah, for me, then kind of, we meet Rey, pretty quick. We get introduced to her normal everyday life, and then we get to kind of step 2 here, the call to adventure, which is the initiating incident of the story. And I have to tell you, there are several of these, I think, for Rey over the course of the movie, and I think they correlate because that refusal of the call, which is the following step, really happens, to Rey throughout almost the entirety of the movie. So, call to adventure. We've met our characters now. Cassia, what do you see as the call to adventure?
I saw the call to adventure as the First Order is after BB-8, and Rey and Finn flee. It's very much just like explosions. We have to go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That's certainly one. I had a couple here, and I think that I agree with you. I think that kind of that section fleeing Jakku, right? She quite literally like runs into Finn there in town. She's got BB-8, and they end up getting shot at by these TIE fighters that are coming in. So yeah, fleeing Jakku is kind of an initiating incident there. You get put on the run. That's going to certainly call you to adventure. You climb on board the Millennium Falcon and you make your way out of there. I saw that as a call to adventure. I saw the offer here. We'll talk about that when we get to it here, but being hired by Han Solo is kind of a call to adventure. The lightsaber is a call to adventure, and even later on in the film, being asked by Kylo Ren to join him is a call to adventure. And she's going to basically refuse all of these. But yeah, I think for me, looking back on it, and if you're trying to kind of outline this in a hero's journey type of a fashion, I think that first kind of running into Finn and then having to basically get away from Jakku is the call to adventure for me.
Yeah, and I'm kind of just like, how did Poe survive, and like like that whole situation? I don't understand that, but yeah, at least his jacket lived on, but yeah, the First Order is intense, at the beginning. They're just blowing up everything, and Finn and Rey, they have great acting chemistry, and I would have loved more of like the trio, like including Poe, in this film, personally. I don't think it's that great of a twist that Poe ends up surviving, I think originally he was supposed to be killed off, but I'm glad he didn't, but I don't know, he could have had more to do,
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Of course he survived. He knew enough to take off his jacket better than Finn. It's hot on Jakku. You don't need a
He's
leather
wearing black,
jacket.
And I'm like, so
you
many
don't need a leather jacket in the middle of
mistakes.
the desert, that's for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, he gets there, and of course, the TIE fighter has crashed, and then thusly gets swallowed up into the desert. But yeah, Poe is going to be around. I kind of agree. It would be nice, I guess, to have the three of those characters together. But as I was watching, and I initially kind of had that thought, I was thinking back to the original trilogy, and really the time that you had with Luke, Han, and Leia together was very minimal over those 3 films. Not at all together in Empire Strikes Back. So I kind of agree that it would have been nice, but I also kind of think that it that's just kind of par for the course. You have kind of these 3 major characters that you feel like spend all this time together, but they don't necessarily always do that.
Yeah, and I do have to say, like, during the beginning of The Force Awakens, there is a unique look during, like, the chase with the Millennium Falcon and the First Order. I thought it was kind of like a blend of, like, the prequels and originals, and, like, the camera moves kind of more than it's ever has in Star Wars. So it was interesting, and that's what I kind of saw as the refusal of the call. Like, there's a prolonged chase. And Rey also wants to stay on Jakku, and it's like, no, it's just funny.
I will not. That's right. Yeah, the refusal to call. Yeah, so I had a bunch of these, as I mentioned. I had a bunch of kind of calls to adventure here, and yeah, certainly the chase is one. You get like a very first initial refusal of the call. They're running to that ship that gets blown up, right? That's a kind of a refusal from without, and they have to take the hunk of junk, the Millennium Falcon there. So that's kind of one without. But I mean, then she's quite literally asked to go on this adventure, several times. So Finn, asks her to go, and she's like, no, I have to go back to Jakku. So she's refusing it there. Han Solo tries to get her, to go with him. She says, no, I have to go back to Jakku. So she's refusing it there. She doesn't take the Skywalker lightsaber from Maz Kanata's castle. That's a refusal there. And then she ultimately goes on to resist Kylo Ren. So she has a lot of refusals in a lot of ways, and we'll get to this here when we get to the first threshold. Like almost the entire movie is Rey refusing this call, really, I think.
Yeah, and you kind of brought up Han Solo. And I saw the meeting with the mentor as Han and Chewie saying we're home, and it seems like Han really ended up liking Rey, and it's a nice connection, I think, that they share, and it's kind of like Han is the Obi-Wan, and I think people are expecting it to be Luke, and that creates, a whole other thing. But it's interesting.
Yeah, definitely. That gets us to our next step here, the meeting of the mentors. So the hero gains the supplies, knowledge, and confidence needed to commence the adventure. And I have here, I wrote down, like, who is the mentor, right? Is it Han? I think that it's meant to be Han, right, throughout the story. But then you think about what, like, Han, like teaches her or entrusts to her, right? She already knows how to fly the Millennium Falcon. She knows how to operate it. She knows how to fix it. Basically, Han gives her a blaster, which is helpful, right? She gets some supplies from him there, but she tells him, she already knows how to use it, right? You just point and shoot. So she's right on the money there. So a very reluctant mentor, kind of thin there for me. I thought maybe Maz Kanata, who we'll talk about here in a second, is meant to be kind of a mentor figure. Maz definitely gives her, kind of some lessons, a little bit of history there about kind of this mystical object that has been calling to Rey. So I could see Maz as being a mentor. You could also just see like the Force itself being a mentor for Rey here, right? The lightsaber chooses you. It helps her, kind of escape the First Order there. The Force basically helps her figure out how to get out of that cell, and it's going to call to that lightsaber into her possession there in the woods at the end of the film. So I think I agree with you. I think that Han is the mentor here in the story, but I think there are a couple, and much like Rey's reluctance to taking this journey on, she also seems either reluctant or too competent for the mentors that she's getting thus far in the story.
Yeah, I can understand. When they land at Maz Kanata's castle, I kind of saw that as crossing the threshold. Is that where you were?
I did not think that. I think that it's an important step for the character journey, especially if you're looking at Finn's journey when they get to Maz Kanata's castle. And I think you could probably, even if you're looking at Kylo Ren's, getting there to Takodana is an important aspect of Kylo Ren's journey. But even kind of at this section, she's had her mentor moments with Han Solo at this point. I guess, like I mentioned, Maz could be viewed as a mentor for her as well. So that's definitely the case. But I still don't see her, fully committing to the story. Right? She keeps talking about going back to Jakku. Finn is trying to leave. Right? He's going to talk to those pirates to, get passage to the Outer Rim. And Rey's like, no, I gotta go back to Jakku. You goofball. What are you even talking about? I gotta go home. So she's still like like reluctant to it. So I actually don't see her crossing the first threshold until she's caught here at the tail end of the section at Maz Kanata's castle, taken up with Kylo Ren, and then she's able to get her way out of that First Order cell. She uses the mind trick and kind of walks out of the cell, and that's kind of where I see her finally committing to the adventure in this movie. But even then, I still think that is pretty light. I don't think she really takes her like first fully committed step until the very end of the movie, when she gets the lightsaber and gets on the Millennium Falcon to go off to find Luke.
Yeah, that's true. She's very reluctant.
She's super reluctant through the whole thing, and that was what the tricky part of this was for me. And we talk about the hero's journey, and the way it's written down and stuff is very linear, and it doesn't necessarily have to be linear. You can have kind of these steps in a bunch of different orders and still have them that make sense. But yeah, she's a very reluctant hero throughout this film. So if you're looking at it through her standpoint, then definitely it keeps kind of getting prolonged. There are like these little like baby steps, I guess, she takes, right, when she stays on the Millennium Falcon, or she is there at Maz Kanata's castle and she goes down into the basement and finds a lightsaber. Like those are like little like baby commitments, I guess, to the adventure. Maybe she's curious, maybe is the better way to say that. Adventure curious.
Yeah, and I think like Harrison Ford really sells the scene when like the sequel trilogy star map appears, and I think like the story of The Last Jedi is really kind of hit on, when Han's explaining like what happened to Luke, what happened to one of his students, and we kind of learn like Kylo Ren was Han Solo's son, so it's like, oh, Han and Leia's kid, like, so Luke felt guilty and left, yeah, so yeah, it would have been interesting to see like if Rey kind of inherited the Falcon, Finn was the Jedi, Poe was kind of the resistance politics person, or at least Rey and Finn were both Jedi, but it is what it is. But I just wanted to say, like, Lupita Nyong'o is criminally underused as an orange Yoda stand-in.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, and
yeah, Maz is great in that scene when she's talking to Rey about the lightsaber is probably my favorite scene in the movie. If I had to pick one, at least kind of character moment. So.
Yeah, and the First Order spy looks cool, like kind of like a Harley Quinn design, not like the DCEU Harley Quinn, but like kind of like the Harley Quinn, kind of like diamond and all that, But anyways,
yeah, that's right. And apparently, the music that's playing there in Maz Kanata's castle is written by J.J. Abrams and Lin-Manuel Miranda of Hamilton fame. So that could have been a good tidbit for up there too. So that's kind of an interesting tie.
Yeah. So it's interesting, and it was cool to see like Kylo, like even though he has like a mask on, like share a scene with Vader's mask, and yeah, it's powerful. Like a lot of people quote Kylo Ren and know like Kylo Ren's like lines from the sequel trilogy. So I think like you can't say like that the series wasn't well acted. It wasn't well casted. I think everyone tried really hard. So
yeah, the acting performances are really great. So yeah, I like that particular scene where he's there with Vader's melted mask, and he calls him a grandfather. That's always a very, very powerful feeling scene there for those characters. And yeah, it does a good job of setting up kind of the mindsets of these characters within this within this world of Star Wars, and I like that. That's quite a bit. And yeah, we get kind of that scene. We see the motivations for Kylo Ren, and he's ultimately the enemy of Rey here, and is kind of the center of this special world. So let's get into our next step here, Cassia. It's tests allies and enemies. The hero explores the special world, faces trials, and makes friends and enemies. So what did you see as our character's major test allies and enemies here? Throughout either this section or kind of throughout the film, because I had a couple of these throughout.
Yeah, so for test allies and enemies, I said like Rey, Finn, and Kylo each go through their own struggles. Rey, you kind of hit on is like kind of all throughout the whole thing, like she wants her family and belonging, and like Maz Kanata's like what you're looking for is ahead of you, not behind you, and Finn's like, I feel like I should run, even after like I was like, oh, this is a little fast, but it's Star Wars. Finn and Rey seen on the stairs, like they helped each other, like they have a deep connection, and whether it's just like friends or it could be something more, it's beautiful, and Kylo Ren is struggling like on his path, he wants to be dark-sided and he's struggling with the light,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something in Kylo Ren where he's not able to fully commit himself over, and that's kind of the I guess the message you're getting then from Snoke, right? You have to kind of prove your allegiance to the dark side if you really want to get onto the side. So that's definitely the big test, I think, for Kylo Ren. Obviously, you have kind of the test of Finn at the very offset of the film, right, when they're ordered to fire on the people there of Jakku, and he doesn't do it. That's a test for Finn for sure. But Rey, I think, has a couple here throughout the story, and I think that the first kind of test is she stumbles upon BB-8 and has the offer to sell them off, for like 60 portions or whatever of her bread, and she decides not to do that. I think that is kind of a test for Rey, a test of her character. Fleeing Jakku with Finn, getting away, getting on the Millennium Falcon and piloting that thing off of there. I think that's a test for Rey as well. Fixing the Millennium Falcon. Maybe my favorite scene in the movie is Rey's trying to fix the Millennium Falcon, and Finn's talking to her, and she's trying to get him to give her a tool or something, and she's pointing at it. She's like, "No, the one that I'm pointing at, guy. What are you doing?" That's the best, for sure. So kind of there, the Millennium Falcon stuff are tests, and then obviously meeting Finn, Han, and Chewie, BB-8 are going to be the allies here throughout the film for Rey, and that's kind of getting into her special world now. Really, the special world for Rey is everything that's not on Jakku.
Yeah, and she kind of sees everything, like when she touches the saber and she kind of runs away into the forest, she does kind of resist it, and Finn goes out to try to save her with the saber, has that traitor fight, and I kind of don't believe that's the first time that Han has ever decided to use the bowcaster, but
you don't think he just used it for target practice one day, like at the rebel base shooting range or something?
Maybe. I think they just needed to foreshadow it's powerful,
True.
And then the Han and Leia, I wish they'd gotten more of the Indy and Marion reconciliation tour feel, it's great to see Poe alive, even though I'm like, it doesn't make sense. It's kind of like Emperor's New Groove. It's like, it doesn't make sense. Like, how are Yzma and Kronk alive? And it's like, or alive, and like, how did they beat Kuzco and Pacha? It's like, who knows? But it is interesting to see, like, Rey's kind of overpowered by Kylo. in the forest, and then when he's interrogating her, it kind of totally like reverses on itself, which I guess is a cool twist. But I still think Finn could have totally been a Jedi, but I think I'll never get over that, but it's okay. And then it's funny because the stormtrooper guarding her is played by Daniel Craig, and like now that I've heard it, like I've seen all of the James Bonds, like I can't unhear it. You know?
Can't unhear it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she gets taken up there. So let's see. So our approach to the innermost cave, the hero nears the center of the story in the special world, is Rey going with Kylo Ren to the Star Destroyer. Is that your approach to the innermost cave for Rey here? Because my approach to the innermost cave for Rey is when she touches that lightsaber and she goes into that Force vision. That's the way that I saw the approach. But what about you?
So the approach, I guess I saw it as like Finn and Rey run away, and Starkiller Base destroys is it the Hosnian system or the Chandrilla system?
It's the Hosnian.
Okay, because when I saw it, I was like, oh, Coruscant, but it's Hosnian. So.
Yeah, that would have been bad. That would have been really bad. Yeah. Okay. So your approach then. Okay, so almost, I guess, kind of at the same time, right? You had a little bit more wider breadth, I guess, for the galaxy. The innermost cave there is that. But yeah, I thought that when she touches the lightsaber and she goes into that vision, she sees a little bit of her past. She sees a little bit of kind of her present and future, I guess, if she takes that lightsaber. I saw that as being kind of the approach to the innermost cave. And then, right on the heels of that is the ordeal for me. The hero faces the greatest challenge yet and experiences death and rebirth. So for me, it was kind of the mind probe section here with Kylo Ren, right? She's strapped down to that that interrogation chair thing, and she's being mind probed by Kylo Ren. Snoke basically tells Kylo Ren to go get her and bring her to him. So that's kind of the ordeal and the way I see it. And I see you kind of get to like a death and a rebirth, right? Because Kylo Ren goes and he does his little like mind probe thing, and she basically passes out. So right, she like collapses to her death there in the arms of Kylo Ren, and then she's kind of reborn again in that prison cell, with some new Force abilities. So I liked kind of that. That imagery, I guess, of death and rebirth. So that's how I saw the ordeal. Where did you see the ordeal falling in the story, Cassia?
So my ordeal and the reward might be switched a bit. For the ordeal, I put Rey is captured and Han is killed by Kylo Ren. Okay. But for the reward, mine happened in the past, like Rey is reunited with Finn, Han, and Chewie.
You got she got an advance on her ordeal. Like, here's your reward. You get through your ordeal later, and you can have all of it. No, I like that. That makes sense. I think to think about them that way. I saw the reward coming a little bit later, as the result of her getting out of that prison cell is she gets reunited with Finn, Han, and Chewie. So that's kind of the consequence of surviving death. She gets reunited with them, but she's also now kind of allowed herself to dabble in this Force that's begun to call to her. So I think that is the reward that I saw here in the story.
Oh wow, yeah. And then are we on the road back now?
Yeah, the road back. The hero returns to the ordinary world or continues to an ultimate destination. So, what say you, Cassio? What's the road back look like?
Let me just peruse my notes. So I put like Rey, Finn, and Chewie try to escape whilst fighting Kylo. And I think Finn put up a good fight, and then, people are gonna fight about this until, forever. But, like, Rey kind of fights Kylo as well, And, yeah, like, it kind of comes to a draw. The land separates, you know, and for the resurrection, I ended up seeing Starkiller bases destroyed.
Oh, okay. Very cool, very cool. I like that. Yeah, so road back for me, kind of similar. So I had the road back. The hero returns to the ordinary world. So I have, it's kind of like a, it's kind of like you get, it's like a one-way street. So the team is trying to leave Starkiller base, right? But then they decide to go back into it to blow it up. That is kind of how I saw the road back. Trying to take the road back home, but continue on to the final destination, which is certainly the ultimate destination for Han. He goes back in and confronts Ben Solo or Kylo Ren there on that walkway, and that goes down. But they do, I guess, successfully blow up the base or get the explosion started. So that's useful. That's useful. And then for the resurrection here, so the hero experiences a final moment of death and rebirth. So they are pure when they re-enter the ordinary world. So looking at this from the standpoint of Rey, Rey is quite literally like thrown through the woods again to her death, basically. Right? She's like passed out, like face down in the snow again, right? So if you look at kind of this hero's journey outline, there's almost like two like death and rebirth sections, and I'm seeing that kind of again, right? She's passed out, like literally face down, but is reborn when that lightsaber comes and flies into her hand. And I have to ask you this, Cassia, is our resident hero's journey expert. Does being doused in the snow, does that count as a baptism? Because I think it does at this point.
I think
Rey has been baptized
so.
into full-fledged force abilities. So I think so. That's what's bringing her back.
Yeah,
there.
For sure. That's what I think too.
All right, perfect. And then so those are the resurrections. The Starkiller base has blown up. They have their battle there. Rey and Kylo Ren kind of ends in a draw. Kylo Ren took a blaster bolt to the side. He's like bleeding out on the snow there, so that makes sense that she'd be able to match wits with him. We saw her fight back on Jakku, so that makes sense. That leaves us with one final step, Cassia. It's the return with the elixir. The hero returns with something to improve the ordinary world. What do you got?
I put Finn is stabilized. Poe and Leia lead the resistance, and Rey has found Luke. And what's interesting about Rey finding Luke is once you notice this, it never goes away, but Luke's coat is sewn onto his robes.
It's very windy there. You don't want to lose your coat.
Yeah.
It'll blow into the ocean. Then you'll have to use the Force to get it back out. And Luke's trying not to use the Force, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sew your coat to your cape. That makes sense. Return with the elixir. Definitely, it's Rey returns. She comes back in, has the lightsaber now. R2 wakes up, and R2 and BB-8 are going to be able to piece together that puzzle showing the location of Luke Skywalker, and that's kind of the thing that is the elixir, I guess, is the location to Luke Skywalker here in this instance. I'm wondering, I was watching it again, and you always just kind of take it for granted that R2 kind of wakes up in that moment, but I'm wondering what triggered that, because BB-8 had been back on the base, I guess, around R2 at some point, prior to this within our story. So the maps had been, together. But I think this is the first time that the lightsaber had been back onto the base. Is that right? I don't know. No, because Finn had it. So I don't know. I don't know what triggers R2 to wake up here in this moment. So
I assumed it was Luke could feel Han's death, so he triggered the map. I don't know if that tracks with The Last Jedi, but that's what I assumed. Or maybe it was a time thing.
R2 was on a timer. Yeah, that could be.
Or maybe R2's force sensitive, I don't know.
R2 is force sensitive. He's a Jedi. He wielded the lightsaber in Return of the Jedi. He was the hero of A New Hope, so that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So...
But yeah, I was just thinking about that. I was like, what triggered R2 at this moment to wake up? Maybe he heard Rey. Maybe Rey was the key to it all. I don't know for sure. But I was trying to figure out, what triggered R2 to to turn on and put the maps together. But I'm glad that they did, because then, ultimately get to go and find Luke Skywalker there at the end of the film. So that is the hero's journey of The Force Awakens.
Yeah. Thank you for listening, and we'll have The Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker to you soon. So
that's right, absolutely. So let us know, if you're listening out there, what your hero's journey analysis of The Force Awakens is, who the hero of the story is, and if you have any different steps or other ideas about it, let us know. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for listening in, and may the Force be with you.
May the Force Awakens be with you.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. See ya. The Old Republic podcast can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, as well as everywhere else that Anchor podcasts are distributed. Subscriptions, reviews, and shares help us out.
And if you want to connect with the podcast on Twitter, we can be found at Old Republic Pod. And if you want to connect with me, I can be found on Instagram at astro_droid_.
You can find us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/Old Republic Podcast. Our intro and outro themes were composed by Dennis S. Mowers at DennisSMowersMusic.com.
This episode of the Old Republic Podcast has been brought to you by Nicky Dog from Patreon. May the Force be with you. We will be back soon. Bye for now.